I give the floor to the OSCE Representative on Freedom of the Media, Ms. Dunja Mijatovic.
Thank you, Jean. I'll really try to be brief. I know that all of you can't wait to go and continue discussion, but in a more informal forum. It has been a very busy and interesting day. I'm really thankful to Wolfgang, who in a way summed up the whole meeting for me, together with David and some other friends, not to mention speakers, Irina, Ben, and Tim. So my job is going to be very easy. But in a way, I think it's also important that you all come with your proposals and your recommendations in order to be able to form our opinion, assessment, and the opinion in which direction this project on open journalism should go, taking into account 2 previous meetings and also everything we heard today from many of you. I will not really do the summary. I think it's still too early. What I can say that our meeting just confirmed that we are still tapping in a dark, but a good thing, as many of you already stated, is that we have to continue our dialogue and our discussion on these issues. Together with my team, we have been carefully listening to everything it has been said, and we will produce a certain paper with recommendations that will be sent to all of you for your contribution. We will also look at all those contributions seriously and then see in which direction recommendations to participating states will go, because this is also part of the assistance to participating states of the OSCE, to all 57. One of the reasons we decided to continue or even to start discussion was a simple fact, or the cases we were all the time collecting about the problems many states are facing in relation to open journalism. This meeting was quite, I would say, technical, but from time to time I could hear human rights, freedom of expression, or open journalism. But at the same time, I think it's important to give platform to the ones that are, in a way, creating trouble to freedom of expression or freedom of the media. So we can together find a way to protect our freedoms and at the same time enjoy the benefits and feel safe, particularly for journalists to do their job. I would, in a way, just mention several things that I notified. Wolfgang already touched upon most of these issues, but I think it would be important to mention it just for you to remember before you go home and from this magnificent city to come back to us with your proposals and your recommendations. We heard about more accountability and more transparency, and that we need to think about considering more accountability and more transparency from intermediaries. By saying this, and as the OSCE Representative on Freedom of the Media, I have to, in a way, remind us all that this is a very tricky road. This is not just something we can simply say, yes, we are going to ask intermediaries for more accountability and more transparency and we will solve the problem. I completely agree that we need to ask them this, but we also have to bear in mind the reality. We have to look at the states and infrastructure, state institution building. Do we have independent regulators? Are there mechanisms to protect citizens if we give this responsibility to the intermediaries? Is it going to be that easy? I don't think so. The reality is that some states may, or they're already doing it, overstep and use these powers that are given to them to restrict these freedoms. And I know we always have to talk with this thinking of a goodwill of our governments. Of course, who would disagree with this? But what I see as a representative is quite a different story. And this story and these facts and these people, and many of them present here, can tell us a story that is completely different. So giving these powers to private actors can create huge problems. And with this in mind, I would like us to think how to formulate these recommendations and at the same time protect free speech and freedom of the media. All this that we discussed today, in a way, is affecting the work of journalists. And they were not mentioned too many times, as I already said today, but I think it's important to say why everything that we discussed today is affecting their work. First, access to information. Second, protection of sources. And, in a way, dissemination of information can be, and it is, affected in the work of journalists with everything that intermediaries are doing for obvious reasons. When states intervene in activities of the intermediaries, particular requests for taking down content, we have to remind ourselves again and again that few principles should always apply: rule of law, proportionality, and due process, and the role of judicial oversight that is so important. There are more and more states engaging in creating laws, giving these powers to quasi-judicial agencies, governments, without judicial oversight. This is something that should not be happening in democracies. We need judiciary. First, we need an independent judiciary, but at the same time, I do not think this is something that can be solved by putting judiciary on a side without having them, in a way, protecting free speech, because I do not think free speech can be protected by companies trying to look at certain content that can be problematic. I know it's quite a controversial view, but at the same time, I think we should not forget it, we should not put it on a side, and we should think about the ways on how to give more accountability, more transparency, more responsibility to intermediaries without forgetting, and I would say, not at the expense of free speech and freedom of the media. But at the same time, you know that I'm OSCE representative on freedom of the media, so there is nothing else you can hear from me. I do look at realities. I do look at everything that is happening outside area that my office is covering or my mandate is covering, in order, again, to make sure that free speech and freedom of the media is protected and that journalists can freely and safely do their job. So with this in mind, I would like to thank, first of all the speakers and moderators for their engagement, for their interest to work with our office. I know all of you are very busy people and very engaged in many areas, so we are really thankful and honored to have you here with us. I'm also thanking you for following the work that this office is doing, and I hope this will continue in the future. I would like to thank, of course, my team, Joan Barata, who was leading this project, Jennifer Adams, where is she? I mean, nothing would happen without Jennifer. It would be simply impossible for any of you to sit here. Interpreters, of course, if they are still, they are still working. I would like us to give them applause. And at the end, I would like once again to thank governments of Sweden, Serbia, and Czech Republic for their generous support. I'm already losing the voice, so it's a sign for me to stop expressing my freedom and freedom of expression. So let us have some quality talk in a more informal setting. Thank you very much.
Okay.